Welcome to the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. And now your host, Dave Gibbs.
Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Omnibus Show, the program for people who are interested in everything, with a wide variety of subjects. This week's guest is Jim Reilly. Jim is the executive director of Actors Theater of Indiana, and he'll be telling us this week about his broad, rich experience in business and about the life of an executive director in theater. Welcome, Jim. It's great to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks.
It's very, very good. Now, you've had quite a broad experience from accounting to real estate to city market and for the Reilly Group before ATI.
I've done it all. Yeah.
You have done it all. So can you tell us a bit about your business milestones and how that led you to ATI?
I went to a small school in Western Maryland called Mount St. Mary's, and I was an accounting major. So when I graduated, I had this accounting degree, and I went to work for a large public accounting firm, Peat, Marwick and Mitchell. It's called something else now. I lost track of all the changes in those accounting firms.
Sure.
I realized early on that I didn't like accounting. I was doing auditing work and I was doing tax work, and there's got to be something else that I can use my accounting degree for. Luckily, one of the partners at the accounting firm was one of his clients was the Rouse Company in Columbia, Maryland. At that time, Rouse was one of the largest shopping center developers in the country, and they were looking for a financial guy where I could use my accounting skills but not do accounting all day long. So it sounded like a pretty good job to me. So I went out and I interviewed and I got the job. And I was there for about 9 years in the accounting, but I got a good taste of the commercial real estate, the shopping center business, and I really liked it. Unbeknownst to me, a gentleman had left the Rouse Company a year or so before I got there and went to work for this company in Indianapolis called the Melvin Simon and Associates. And he said they were looking for a director of financial services. He said, I think you would be the great guy for this. So I came out, I interviewed, and I got the job. I remember standing on the corner when we came out, standing on the corner of 18th and Meridian, the day that I had my interview, and there was no traffic. Yet they were paying a guy to fly in a helicopter around giving traffic reports. I thought that was the neatest thing I've ever seen. So to make a long story short, my wife and I moved out here in 1977. And I came to work for the Simon organization, and I was there about 10 years. Yeah.
So you've been in the top tier Premier League of commercial real estate.
Yeah. At that time, there were probably 4 or 5 major companies that did the shopping center development. There was the DeBartolo Company out of Youngstown, Ohio, that did Castleton Square Mall, and they developed Lafayette Square Mall and Washington Square Mall. The Rouse Company, the Simon organization, and a company in California. So yeah, I learned under the best.
Yeah, that's the top, and they're still thriving, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Shopping center business is a tough business. Now that Melvin and Herb is still alive, but Melvin passed, and his son David Simon now runs the Simon organization, Simon Property Group. And David worked for me for 2 summers when he was at IU. He interned for me.
Great.
And he was a brilliant guy then, and he's an even more brilliant guy now. So yeah, the company is no longer, they no longer build shopping centers. The trend now is to repurpose all these old shopping malls that are all over the country. And Simon's been very, very good about repurposing centers to make them fit more into the community. And but I think you're going to see more centers like
Clay Terrace?
Clay Terrace up here in Carmel, the outdoor centers.
Yeah.
I think the days of the old shopping malls are, I hate to say dead, but they're on a rapid decline.
Sure.
But the outdoor centers appear to be doing fairly well.
Yeah. When I lived in Evanston during my grad school years, I had used to go to Old Orchard, which I believe is Simon. That's not a Simon. Is it not a Simon? I thought that was a Simon property.
I don't think it was.
Then I'm mistaken. But they were one of the early adopters of that outdoor, kind of almost like you're in a village type of methodology. Well, we could go on all day about. I love learning about real estate and all of that commercial and personal.
That whole era of building these large shopping malls was kind of a fascinating era. It really was. To see who could build the biggest and the best shopping center. And the Simon and Rouse both did some marvelous properties. I know Rouse repurposed the old Faneuil Hall project in
Boston.
In Boston.
Yeah.
And the Inner Harbor project in Baltimore, which is still thriving today. So they were very innovative, very, very smart developers, both Simon and Rouse. So it was really a joy to work for both of those organizations.
Well, you certainly put in a great history with those folks that you've told us, and that must have given you a very broad education for operations.
It really did. Even though I was an accountant by education, I never really thought of myself as an accountant. I kind of used that knowledge as a stepping stone or a leapfrog. I know I had good people skills. I was a good manager. And I've just found ways to take both of those areas of expertise and merge them. And it really worked out well for me.
Sure. Well, as I've said, when I speak with college students, I was liberal arts, but if I could go back, which I didn't back then, but I would go over to business school and take accounting and statistics just for life knowledge and just for general business experience. So accounting, I highly value that. I think that's a very highly valued skill to have.
I have 9 grandchildren in college, and I've encouraged all of them. I don't care if you don't major in accounting, but take some accounting courses, take some economic courses, take some statistics courses, and just have a knowledge of that part of it. It'll help you not only in business, but in your own personal life.
Sure. That's wise. Wise grandfather advice. No, it really is. Now, as I've said, you've had a rich history. You would also, you worked downtown in the city market, and you had your own Reilly group, right? Helping manage businesses, but before you started ATI.
The City Market Project came from a relationship that I had, a networking relationship with Jerry and David Cosine, Cosine and Cosine. They're a relatively small developer here in town. They went to high school with Mayor Stephen Goldsmith at that time, and he wanted to get some private management into the city market. The city managed it, and he felt that wasn't the right road to go for the city to manage a property like the city market. So they called David and Jerry, who called me and asked me if I would consider joining them to run the city market, which was a not-for-profit. And I always loved the markets. It's a fascinating facility.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is.
And I went there, and I was there for about 10 years. And it was just a neat job. I truly had fun. It was the old ethnic marketplace, the Italian groceries, the Italian produce, and the Jewish delis. And it was just a fun job.
Having it all together, it's just a great market. I really have enjoyed that.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
And so I stayed there for about 10 years. And then trying to think where I went next. I'm off track.
Well, yeah, you had your
had the Reilly Group.
You had the Reilly Group.
I started the Reilly Group. The theory being, Dave, that a lot of not-for-profits have a very good purpose for starting out, but sometimes they lack the business resources or the business knowledge to really make it run like a business.
Yes.
And I thought that the city market gave me that kind of experience, and so I helped some small organizations, and it was a very enjoyable time in my life. I enjoyed that. I really did. And then I got a call one day from a friend who was doing some work for a theater company in town. And they had just been invited by the mayor of Carmel to come up to the Center for the Performing Arts. And but they had no business experience. They didn't know what to do, what I consider helping them out. So I said, let's talk about it. And so I met with the owners, and we agreed that I could probably help them. But I said, let's just give it a 3-month consulting contract, and we'll see what happens here. So I gave them 3 months, and 12 years later, I'm still there.
Fabulous. Well, it's like they can't live without you.
Well, again, it was a fun job. My wife and I always loved the theater. We loved going to shows. We frequented the IRT and the Indianapolis Symphony. And actually, we went to this first show we had ever seen of Actors Theater, which is the company I'm with now. And we went and saw Chicago. And we left there so happy, so impressed that my wife wrote them a letter thanking them for being in Carmel and for putting on all these shows. Well, they thought the letter came from me, and they contacted me and asked me if I considered joining them. So that's how that all came about.
Great. So that was like, thank you for writing. We need you.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that's better than getting pressed into the Navy.
Oh yeah, but it was again, it's been a good ride. I've had a lot of fun. I just can't stress enough the value of relationships and networking. You really got to do that. And I was good at it. I think I had the right personality for it. And it's something I've never regretted, and it's paid off for me very handsomely.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fabulous. I mean, your history is so rich, Jim, and having been in theater from starting out as accountant, that's an incredible.
It's kind of hard to see a connection there, isn't it? Accounting to the theater.
But the thing is, your story makes sense. I mean, it just has this story kind of,
I think basically, Dave, I realized that when you have a business degree, it doesn't really matter what kind of company needs your help. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to know anything about theater. ATI, or Actors Theater of Indiana, was first and foremost a business.
Yeah.
That someone with a business background can actually help. I didn't go in there to act. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't do anything.
Right.
But I could help.
But you can business.
I can business. Yeah, really. And I can help them. And for 12 years, I've done that. And it's been fun.
Mm-hmm. That's fabulous. Well, the thing is, what I always say to artists, young artists, is to network, is to have a business mentor and to get a lawyer. And it's for their contracts. And so, what a story.
What I would tell people is that if you're in theater, it's a proud profession, but you're not going to make a whole lot of money doing it.
Right.
It's a very tough business, and we're all experiencing that now. All theaters in the country are going through a pretty tough time right now because of the COVID, and we've never really gotten over that. People really haven't come back to the theater at all. And it's been a strain, and quite a few companies in the country have gone out of business. They just can't make it.
What would you say in your business wisdom insight of what would be a good path forward for those theatrical groups that are going to make it through post-COVID?
You've got to go back to the basics. You got to go back to what people like. They like to leave a theater happy. They want to leave a theater either seeing a great traditional musical or a Neil Simon play. There are a lot of Neil Simon plays that can make people very, very happy. And a lot of theater companies, including Actors Theater, we presented shows that were more of a social justice slant, and people just don't want to come see those. They're kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but they're putting you, they're ramming stuff down your throat, and you don't want to go to a theater and have that happen to you. You want to leave there and saying, well, I had a great time, I'll jump in my step, and that's what you want. And a lot of theaters I've gone down the path because of social pressure. I'm not going to lie; it's a lot of social pressure, but you got to go back to the basics, and the basics are comedies or feel-good stories, musicals, and then see how it goes. See how long you can continue doing that. There may be a time when you can do some more serious stuff, but now's not that time.
But it'd be in the story, I would think. If you're wanting to address some subject, it would be in the story as opposed to just the dialogue type.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, I would think that. I think of the high school. We always had this cycle at my high school of it would be I was Pygmalion, My Fair Lady, and Fiddler on the Roof,
Music Man,
Music Man, of course. And so those are in Oklahoma, and Camelot.
But the problem that most theaters have with those shows, Dave, is that they are very expensive to put on.
Okay.
You do
the costumes and all
or just getting the rights to some of those shows is very expensive.
Yeah.
But you have a large cast. You have probably in Music Man, probably 16 or 17. I saw a show when I was a kid in Philadelphia. My parents took me to see George M. About the George M. Cohen.
Yeah.
All the great George M. Cohen songs.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me. I loved that show. So I asked the crew at ATI, I said, well, how come we don't do that show? Well, it's like a 17-person show.
Wow.
And it gets expensive, and all the songs and the band and everything else. So there are certain shows that a small theater should do but can't do because of the costs.
Yeah.
Cost will kill a small theater.
Yeah. That, especially if it's those big, huge productions that have, the big crowds of people.
Plus, the small theaters don't have the wherewithal financially. They haven't got the big endowments. They haven't got the big donor base that a lot of companies have. Small theaters, it's a tough business.
Yeah,
it really is, and you got to get creative.
Then you have to be creative with scale, don't you?
Yep.
Because I know Sam, who was on here before, he was very creative with scale. And so, and it seems like the way to do that is to constantly have action. You keep it going. And that's how the audience keeps focused on the story.
We have to realize too, for example, ATI has a very, it's an older audience.
Okay.
So you got to attempt to do shows that an older audience would enjoy watching. We can bring in some of the newer stuff into the theater, but odds are your older patrons are not going to like it. So
I see.
You may feel like you're getting into a rut by doing all the old shows, but if that's where your patron base is.
The patron base is, and so that makes sense. Well, that's some good business knowledge. Well, thank you, Jim.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to take a brief break right now. We'll be back with Chapter 2 with Jim Reilly on The Omnibus Show. Hello and welcome back to Chapter 2 with Jim Reilly, Executive Director at ATI, the Actors Theater of Indiana. Well, Jim, you've given us some good life history of your business experience. From what you've told us, you really have enjoyed your journey. And can you tell our listeners about what are some good business practices and business knowledge?
I think I've been extremely fortunate. I've worked for companies that I've really liked. They're very good companies. The Rouse Company, a very well-known company. Simon was an absolute hoot to work for. I loved it. And the city market, being downtown, I've been very fortunate to work with companies that I have truly enjoyed.
That's great.
And that always helps. I never felt like, why am I here? I hate the job. I never said that a day in my life. I've always had fun.
That's great.
But I also had my networking. I kept up over the years, and I can't really stress that enough. how important networking is. No matter what age you are, your networking skills will always come in handy because, I'm in my 70s now and I'm still working and I'm still doing that. I'm still networking with people I know.
That's great. Never retire, I always say.
Well, even though I am going to retire soon.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not saying I'm not going to work somewhere.
Sure.
There's always something I'll do. I can't retire.
Well, you've got too much energy for that.
That's not in my blood.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to try to get into a business or the company that you're having fun with. You gotta have fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can mix business and pleasure and have fun. And this is one of those, you just have to do it. But the networking piece is an extremely important piece. I think I have a good personality for it, and it kind of came easy for me. It may not come easy for everybody. You got to be outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
You got to not be afraid to call people and just say, you don't know me, but we have a common friend, or we have a mutual friend. That opens so many doors.
Yeah. Well, your networking experiences was definitely helpful in your story.
It was.
And I'm very happy that you had such an outcome because it led you to great places.
Yeah.
For those who are students who their career is Mount Everest before them, or people who are mid-career, these days people are going to be working with different companies. Like you've actually cut a course already because you've done that. You haven't stayed with one company.
No.
But in the old days, some people would stay with a company most of their adult life. So they're going to have to change course a number of times. What advice would you have for them?
It depends on the skill set.
Yeah.
You've got to have the skill set that is transferable between different organizations.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, it was business, and to go from Rouse to Simon to the city market, the financial piece of the puzzle was extremely important. And again, I had no clue what it took to get involved in a theater company. Mm-hmm. They needed help from a business standpoint, and I was there for them. But it turned out the skills that they needed, I possessed. I could help them with all the avenues of business. And so it's been a good marriage. If not, I wouldn't be there for 12 years.
Sure.
But it really worked.
And neither would they.
And neither would they. That's exactly right. Because it's been tough. But being at the Center for the Performing Arts has been a blessing. It's a marvelous facility, and the exposure for the organization has been phenomenal. So it's been good, but just keep up the networking. It's extremely important. I keep saying that, but I can't stress it enough. It's extremely important.
Well, thank you. And then from there, if somebody wants to be an executive director or a presiding person or the operations person in charge of a theater group, what points would you have for them?
Well, there are so many different types of jobs within the theater organization. Yeah. You get involved in the actual production part of it. We use electricians. We need people to build sets. Anybody with a construction background that can handle building things. And I had no idea that this even existed until I got involved with Actors Theater. All the types of skill sets that are needed, not only from the business standpoint. And again, if you want to be an executive director, you need some business background.
Sure.
But if that's not your calling, getting involved with the theater itself in either production, again, building sets, electricity, it's just amazing. So there's no one area that you can focus on. If you have those type of skills, if you're a creative person, there's something that you can do in the theater.
And if they wanted to be an executive director, what would you say to them?
I would go back to the business side of it. And that's helped carry me through. Again, I don't get involved personally in the artistic side of it. I don't pretend. I can't even hammer a nail. but we have people that do that, and they build the sets. I'm good at the money. I keep keeping track of the cost, keeping track of paying the people. But I just brought a business skill there. But if you want to get involved in theater, there are so many other jobs that are available. So don't be shy. Don't be bashful. And again, find a theater company and talk to somebody like myself. we are always willing to talk to people about a career in the theater company. We really are. So don't be bashful.
Yeah, that's an important thing, I think, for anybody who wants to learn any kind of career is to go ask questions. Well, Jim, what can you tell us? What's coming up with ATI?
Well, we're finally getting back on track. We took a hiatus because of the virus.
Sure.
So we're getting back on track now, and got some fundraising activity planned, and we get back on the theater stage in January and February. The first show will be Route 66, which was a show we did several years ago. Very popular show, great music.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will be a show that we've done before. It's called Forbidden Broadway. It's kind of a spoof on all the Broadway shows.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a comedy, great music. And then we're doing another show. It's ATI's Greatest Hits. And we did one last year, and this is number 2 this year. So any questions, just go to the website, atistage.org, or Actors Theater of Indiana, and check it out. But it's fun to be getting back because we took some time off, obviously, and that was tough. But what we did, we repurposed ourselves. We started doing things that weren't in our wheelhouse to keep active, to keep ourselves in the community.
Sure.
Let people know that we're still alive, we're still here, and so that was, we had to redirect some of our talents to other areas, but it paid off, and we. Our supporters are still there. We're still getting some grants. So it's been an exciting time, but we're anxious to get back on stage. We really are.
Back to the
meaning of what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Jim, thank you for being with us
You're
today.
quite welcome. It's been my pleasure.
It's great having and best wishes on the new season.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. Well, thank you for being with us. Today's guest was Jim Reilly, the Executive Director of the Actors Theater of Indiana. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Hotel Carmichael. We're shooting today from Feinstein's. We look forward to being with you on our next episode of The Omnibus Show.
If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe to continue the conversation. For the Omnibus Show newsletter, please sign up at theomnibusshow.com.